I don't know why I didn't know about this, but apparently at certain times, I think it happened like in California 12 times in a year or two ago or whatever, but negative rates for power in wholesale power markets in certain states like California, Texas. It's happening a little bit in the Northeast. And this, I was interested to read that it's basically a way to incentivize coal and nuclear plants to shut down. Taylor, can you add some color here? Like, are you I couldn't. Are you nervous if you own a nuclear plant at this point? Like, that's negative rates.
I think nuclear
in order
is
to tell you
probably
to shut your damn. Pardon my French.
I think my degree of nervousness would go coal, nuclear, natural gas.
Right.
Because coal is already on the decline. Coal companies are going bankrupt in the U.S.
That article,
seemingly every month. Europe is severely waning on coal production, and they were like the founders of coal power. You still have India and countries that are developing using coal, but slowing growth there. China's starting to seem like it's peaking on coal power production. So that would be the most nervous I would be.
Flatline less.
Yeah.
They're a little tired of the pollution, amongst other things.
Yeah, when you can't see 5 feet in front of your face, I think it's time for a wake up call.
All the stories. I went to Beijing like 5 years ago. It is true, all of it.
Well,
true.
you have reports of Zuckerberg going on the smog run when he was in China, to talk about climate change and obviously Facebook getting into China. But
did he actually go on a jog in Beijing?
Yeah, with some of the leaders from
China,
and they called it the smog run because pollution was so bad. But you had to expect this to happen sooner or later because sun and wind sun is kind of predictable. The clouds obviously obstructed a little bit, but wind is less predictable. So you get peak times of both at the same time, and you can't shut down a nuclear plant willy-nilly. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's time to start getting nervous, at least in states that have seen the most growth from both. I think if it's just solar or if it's just wind, you probably have a few years before you need to get worried. But
at what point do nuclear plants and natural gas, plants start complaining to the government? Because granted,
they've been complaining. They've been complaining.
Granted, the cost of solar has gone down. I think we read that it was like 1/150th of the cost for solar in the 1970s. Yep. You guys remember that James Bond film? I think it was The Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was the Solex or the little thing or whatever, and all this. Anyway, 40 years later, we finally got our solar power, like James Bond was
happening.
Yeah. But one of the reasons wind has been so big is because of these tax credits that have been going on, and Buffett talks about them as part of his rationale for doing all the investments that he's done in solar.
Well, it's funny, you see the tax credits get extended
right.
into perpetuity just so we could export oil, but how long is that oil exportation really going to be a big deal? We're still importing a ton. We haven't really exported. We've exported a fraction.
We just started
but
a little bit.
I think that in the long run, obviously those credits are going to be a much bigger deal to fossil fuels than oil exports are going to be.
Right. What have you heard? Are natural gas companies and obviously coal companies are.
Well, I think natural gas you can flip the switch on and off a little easier.
If you're nuclear, at what point you're like, what the heck, federal government?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think long term you're probably up a creek. Unless you can figure out a way to turn it off and on. I don't know.
And one of the things that makes it's not just there isn't a single nuclear company. So most of the utilities have some sort of diversified generation because you have your base load, which is your nuclear power.
Like Exelon, I think, is a great example. They're starting to grow renewable, but they are the largest nuclear power provider in the country.
Right. So you have that base load power, and then you go into your more variable power sources like your natural gas and your solar and wind, so that when solar and wind are getting a lot of power from that, you've got that little bit of base load power from nuclear to support, and then on the peak times, which is basically when you start to get waning production from solar and wind, during certain times of the day, then you can ramp back up with natural gas. So having that diversified kind of generation portfolio can help offset having the issue of just being a pure nuclear player or something like that.
So utilities clearly need to just get in on the game in order to survive and make sure they're
most definitely.
So I went to the Pittsburgh Pirates Cardinals opening day on Sunday, and we were obviously in coal country driving through Pittsburgh. And there was a huge billboard. It was like, "Wind stops, sun's set. Coal is forever." And I was like, oh God, please tell me that billboard is a decade old.
Oh, gee. I can't believe somebody's
still
writing
trying.
the checks for that.
They're still
because
trying.
Who's
Yeah.
writing the check for
Coal
that billboard?
companies, coal
Yeah,
producers.
but they're
and-
bankrupt. Like, what's going on here?
Well, I don't think billboards are the highest priced advertising model
Right.
anymore, so it's probably the lowest hanging fruit. To get
Oh,
their
it's like
word out.
a dying model and a dying model teaming up.
One would
and-
imagine.
Oh,
yeah,
this is funny. Yeah.
It wasn't even one of those flashy billboards that changes 3 different times. It was just the paper
It was
painted
just straight up billboard.
yeah.
Yeah.